A study on overprotectiveness and care exhibited by both mothers and fathers. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Nimra Yasin, and our research was carried out on parental bonding. The initial step of the research was to find out the questions about the topic, which led our complete research. The questions are as follows. Number one, how do parental styles during the first 16 years affect the perception of child of her parents? Number two, is it true that fathers are perceived as more protective and mothers are perceived as more caring when compared? Number three, when attributes and actions of parents do children label under care or protection? What is parental bonding? Parental bonding is mutual emotional and psychological closeness between the parents and their children. So, furthermore, if we describe it, it is actually the attachment that has developed over the time period between the parents, which urges them to shower their babies with love, affection, care, and protection. Our research have two objectives, that is, number one, that is to explore the underlying factors that determine if a parent is considered overprotective or caring by children. For example, talking in a friendly manner or putting restrictions on their certain activities, reminding them of the cons and banning them completely from doing a certain act. The second objective is to gather the latest statistical data on how parenting styles have changed. So, traditionally, it is considered that mothers are caregivers, as fathers are considered to be more protective of their children. Hypothesis. What is hypothesis? Hypothesis is a statement that can actually be tested. If you want to test a relationship between two or more things, you need to write hypothesis before you actually start your experiment or data collection. We have two hypotheses here. That is, mothers are perceived as more caring than fathers by children in their first 16 years of childhood. Second, fathers are perceived as being more overprotective than mothers by children in their first 16 of childhood.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Osama Bhatt. I am going to talk about the methodology and sampling method of our research. Our research was assessed by using Parker's PBI scale. Now, what is PBI? PBI stands for Parental Bonding Instrument. It is a widely used battery to assess the parenting behaviors. Originally, it was developed to measure the two attributes of the parents, that are care and overprotection. That brings us to the variables of our research, that is again care and overprotection. Now, what is variables? Variables basically refers to a person, place, or a thing, or even a phenomena that you are trying to measure. Now, we are going to talk about the sample size of our research. That means that our research was conducted on 100 people. Our research was also restricted to Pakistan only, and the participants in our research were 60 females and 40 males. The ages of our participants ranges in between 15 to 55. Now, I'm going to talk about the sampling method of our research. Our research was based on an online Google Form survey that contained 28 items. Since we all know that while conducting a research, informed consent is required. What is an informed consent? An informed consent is basically a competent subject that voluntarily provides his or her willingness to participate in the research. Our research was based on 4 techniques. The 4 techniques are quota, persuasive, snowball sampling, and then last but not the least, convenience sampling. In the scoring section, we gave 4 options to the participants. The first one being very like, the second one was moderately like, the third one was moderately unlike, and the last one was very unlike. The data was contained in the pie charts and the bar graphs. On to the results now. 51% of the respondents believe that fathers usually cater better the physiological needs that includes food or safety, etc. While on the other hand, 74% of the respondents believe that mothers cater better the emotional needs of their children. Now, from the results, we know that mothers usually show tenderness and they are more emotionally available to their children as compared to the fathers, because fathers, according to the results, are emotionally unavailable. Similar results were seen in the regions of praise, or how the parents let their children dress, uh, whatever, however way they like, and also who in your parents, mother or father, um, talk to in a warm or friendly voice. So the results were similar. The limitations of our research are further discussed in the presentation, and over to Lisa now.
Hi, my name is Sayyida Aliza Khalid, and I'll be walking you through the discussion of the results my team member just analyzed for you. It is no surprise that a hypothesis was proven, as according to previous work on this topic and traditional roles of both parents, it is in fact true that mothers tend to be more caring and fathers are in fact more overprotective. Mothers not only engage in the process of managing feelings and expressions to fulfill their children's emotional requirements, but also help regulate these. This can be referred to as emotional labor. For example, our research shows that mothers make children feel better when they're upset, whereas fathers tend to look after the security and safety of their children and remain emotionally unavailable to some extent. For example, how one of our graphs showed that fathers don't help children as much as needed and don't enjoy engaging in conversation more than mothers do. Therefore, there is a strong correlation between mothers in care and fathers in overprotection. However, it must be noted that the differences were minimal, and although mothers outperformed fathers, they still didn't have too large of a difference. This may be due to fathers becoming more caring as parental styles change over time, but not being as expressive as one would like them to. This doesn't mean that they don't care, it just means they don't exhibit it as much as mothers do, therefore giving us a whole new perspective on the topic. Moving along, in light of the results achieved, I will now be briefly explaining the implications and importance of our research. Our study has carefully examined how parental styles may vary between both parents. We have looked at so many elements that contribute to parents being perceived as either overprotective or caring. This not only helps us get a more varied insight into an experience of the first 16 years of childhood, but also what children might perceive as important to them that we adults might not. For example, being spoken to in a friendly voice, being given more privacy, or even letting them make their own decisions. Moreover, this research can be a starting point for further researches that study childhood development and what effects parental styles have on children after the first 16 years. Next, I will be highlighting the limitations of our research. Due to being our first ever research project, we did not have the opportunity to invest as much time, money, and energy into this project as we would have liked to. We were constrained by the fact that this was an internet-based survey that only allowed us to reach a maximum of 100 people. Thus, our sample size was too small to be generalized and was only conducted within Pakistan. Therefore, it can't be applied to a wider scale. I would also like to point out how we came across a number of ethical issues due to our study being a sensitive and very personal topic for many. We fear we might have triggered past traumas of abuse or neglect due to imposing such questions on our respondents. This could have left them feeling mentally and emotionally disturbed. Also, childhood is supposedly a different experience for each individual and may thus vary from person to person. Thus, findings may prove to be difficult to replicate and may not be reliable enough. Lastly, our survey only allowed quantitative analysis and did not have any open-ended questions to provide a more detailed insight to our respondents' childhood. We have now reached the end of our presentation and would like to conclude that our hypothesis stands correct. Despite our research having limitations, it was valid enough to answer our research question and prove that mothers are definitely more caring than fathers, and fathers are more overprotective than mothers. However, we have also noticed how fathers did not lag too far behind and do exhibit care, although not necessarily as much as mothers do. To end on a more lighter note, future researchers should definitely try to gain a bigger sample size, should be conducted more thoroughly to get more in-depth information, for example through interviews or focus groups, and lastly should add another option for other parental figures for respondents who don't have access to one or both parents. Thank you.